I discovered on the walk up to the stairs here that it's my
You're
agenda.
the vice chair.
So, guys, I think that, so let's touch base. So we met, this is our third time. First meeting, we had some enthusiasm for a real estate transfer fee. It may come under other names, but real estate or a transaction fee. And that transaction fee would potentially replace the development tax, and with some expectation that it could exceed the development tax and then some. We all recalled, and we recited and summarized in that meeting, that the real estate transfer fee was met with a great deal of resistance previously, but we thought that the tone of the industry might have changed in these intermittent years. We met last week, and the real estate transfer fee had significant pushback from real estate and home building association members that were here. Articulate.
I think it's more from the realtors.
All four of those. Okay, so thanks for correcting me.
That's kind of the opinion.
So it was MTAR. Okay.
Yeah.
Hunter, Rex, Greg,
Right.
Curran.
Coran.
Okay, so not home builders, Rachel. It was more realtors that were. And so they recall back when it came before the commission previously, and then actually got to the state legislature, and actually may have even gotten to the state Supreme Court. The real estate transfer fee, the state's not supporting it from a legislative standpoint, and I think a course case made up to some high court in Tennessee with Mr. Robert Stroop here in Rutherford County, and it was deemed unconstitutional. And I think one of the gentlemen there mentioned some constitutional concern, state constitution or federal, I'm not. So I just kind of lay a little groundwork that we had a little bit of trajectory for that, and it was met with greater resistance last week, and the guys who resisted it aren't here today. So let's enact it.
Well, I'm here
So
in a dual purpose.
and I know, and I was being facetious, and I shouldn't be
No,
facetious in that. And so I know, Tim, I think 2 weeks ago when we met, I think if I may recall, you even had some thoughts that it might be received, it might be more receptive groundwork now, and I think you met some pretty good resistance.
Well, that's my opinion. I mean, and again, speaking only for myself, not Wilson Bank that I work for, or I'm involved in both of those, the home builders and the realtors. I guess I tend to be a little more pragmatic about things, and we obviously have issues that we all agree on. I think we agree that we don't have enough money coming into the county coffers to build more roads, state or county roads. We know very soon down the road we've got issues with solid waste. We know we got issues with schools, other capital projects, and we can't just keep turning a blind eye. Well, we opposed it back then, but I just feel like even with people that say, well, I don't think I need to improve, I don't need to pay for, those new subdivisions, out there, but we all benefit. We all drive the same roads. We all benefit when we got good school systems. We all benefit when we got, our solid waste and other things taken care of. So it stands to reason that when we get into a point, you as a county commission or city councils or whatever have to be in a fiduciary responsibility, very prudent in what you do with the tax dollars you get. But likewise, at some point, we reach a point that we've got to share some pain. That's why I felt like, if it's beyond, you get hamstrung with what you can do from the law, from the state laws enabling legislation. So then you have to start looking at other alternatives. And when you exhaust all that, then what's the answer? That's why I feel like if it's something that isn't, as some of my colleagues brought up, felt that the transfer tax increasing, I say it's increasing it because we already pay a transfer tax on
To
every
the state.
real estate transaction, $3.70 per thousand. If that's not unconstitutional, then why not? And where would the, I guess, the least pain and most gain come from?
Right. And that's what I was going to ask is, have we looked into this, the summary of that lawsuit? What was the reasons, but it was deemed unconstitutional?
So,
The state already has one, and then they say it's unconstitutional.
yeah, Doug Beaudry recited some components of the
Okay.
case
I
to
wasn't
me
here for the whole meeting,
over the
so-
phone.
Oh, okay.
Just, so I was recalling, I was kind of bringing that conversation back up because it echoed what the gentleman, some of the comments the gentleman with Intar made.
Yeah, that
Either
Rex
Rex or
Brown.
Greg or.
Rex Brown.
Rex.
He's their government affairs director.
Okay, so, and we've got Nick looking into it.
Okay.
And I'm not sure who else, I mean, I don't know, none of us can professionally look into it. We don't have the credentials, nobody here.
You know, the wheel tax was kicked around, and talking to Lisa, I made the statement in budget, you remember the other night, Lisa said whatever increase in the wheel tax could be designated specifically for that if it was $15, $20 more, but a $20 additional increase on the wheel tax would generate about $5 million. But here's the thing about it. If that whole $5 million was for infrastructure, that's just a drop in the bucket. Plus, we have two options with the county commission. In 2000, when it was passed, I pushed the $20 and we didn't put it on the referendum. Okay, and there was a hue and cry from some of the county commissioners about that. Okay, so if we put it on the referendum for the public to vote on, it's dead in the water, because they're not gonna vote for another $20, $25 wheel tax. But the property transfer tax, in my finite mind, what's the difference? Every time a vehicle is sold or traded or whatever, you pay a tax on that. You know, so I don't know. But I was really enthused on our first meeting. I said, charge, you know, but then somebody threw some water on my enthusiasm.
Well, they call it double taxation.
Yeah.
And I hadn't looked into that, why it would be considered
I don't
double
know.
taxation.
That goes in one ear and out the other with me. I don't understand that. Like I said, my finite mind, I can't grasp that, you know, because you're taxed on different things the way around twice, you know, basically.
Well, is it double taxation because they don't specify what the money is going to? Does it just go to
I
a
don't
state
know.
general fund or something?
I don't
It would seem like if you specified that this is going towards roads and there's no other tax
I
going
think every
towards
time it
roads.
sells, it's taxed again. Maybe but again, it's the car.
Isn't the development tax essentially double taxation then, if you use that same logic?
Yeah.
Because you're paying sales tax of $30,000 or $40,000 when you build a nice home,
Yeah.
you know? I mean,
Yeah.
and then you're paying a development tax on top of that.
So let's just, I think all we can state today is that this transfer fee is still has some credibility.
Possibility.
Some credibility to this group. The previous group had some guys had the capacity to articulate some of the complaints against it, which is valuable in conversation. In our first meeting, it had some enthusiasm. So I think all we can do today is, it's still on the agenda. And it's a long-term option. It's a long way off from being implemented. I want to make that statement.
At least to get the ball rolling.
Yeah, it could be months or years for that to be enacted, because it's going to take some changing, some either Tennessee Code annotated or law, or something's got to change for it to become part of a tool in our box.
Talking
So
about-
you mentioned, we're going to have to continue to look at the facts of this constitutionality and so forth. I don't know how we do that. I don't know, Nick?
Nick, I would say.
And I've got to call into Melissa Kelton with CTAS.
Yeah.
Is that what it's called?
And
CTAS.
CTAS. So they're,
Doug could hit,
Do y'all-
Doug Bowles
y'all
could
heard
hit you on
that?
that too.
so they,
That's where Doug Lottery came from. Was it?
correct. But it's a county commission.
technical-
County
Assistant-
Technical Assistance
Assistant
Service.
Service.
It's a state
Yeah,
operation.
UT extension or
They
UT?
have
No, it's
one
actually part of it's part of the state government.
Okay.
There's MTAS, it's
Municipal.
for municipals, and CTAS
CTAS
is for
for
counties.
counties.
Okay, so you've heard
back in the day.
So we're going to be,
We used MTS back in the day.
okay, so we're going to be using them as a resource, so let's just keep.
Of course, like I said, see, Bowdry was there for many years with CTAS.
That's- yeah, he's been
So,
very resourceful.
yeah, yeah. But talking about the wheel tax and everything, we've slapped with the whammy here within maybe a year and a half. We're gonna have to recoup $270,000 from the emission thing. 'Cause see, we got $1 off each one, and the last account I had, it was $270,000. So we're gonna have to face that shortfall that we will no longer get.
Because that's going to be
Phased out.
stopped, that's going
Yeah,
to stop,
yeah,
that's committed.
Yes.
But that brings up a good point, though. So we've all been accustomed to paying $9 every year just for that privilege. That's going to go away. There's $9 for every auto owner, for every vehicle. I know you can say they're all drops in the bucket, but, they are drops in the bucket.
And
They do add.
I want to gather some
And then
drops.
what is what's the highest wheel tax in the state of Tennessee? Has anybody even looked at that? And again, that spreads the burden a little bit away from property owners to folks that,
Rent or.
rent, don't own property, whatever.
Well,
And if that saved you a few pennies on property tax, for example, would you be more in favor for everybody to pay a little more on the wheel tax when, in a sense, it would be a zero sum if you raised wheel tax to just say $9, for example?
Yeah.
of course, another selling point on the wheel tax is we have a flat fee for the wheel tax. Okay, a lot of states, Alabama, Georgia, and I don't know how many other states have what they call an ad valorem tax.
Oh, yeah.
They pay the value of, hey, somebody could pay $500 and $600 for the license
Oh,
plates.
Kentucky, yeah.
You know?
Yeah, a lot of states
So-
have ad valorem tax.
Yeah. So, but
I couldn't do
Commercial driver.
Wouldn't bother me.
it would have to be a huge PR effort
Yeah.
on wheel tax,
Yeah, $9 you would think.
And
People
Bob
live-
Bullen told me, sitting over at City Cafe, when I got that one passed in 2000, he said, "Hey, Commissioner, did I know what they'll put on your tombstone?" I said, "What's that?" He said, "Wheel tax, Johnson." I said, "Well, Bob, put it on yours too, you voted for it."
You mentioned the drops in the buckets and so I think that I would like to discuss, at least my concept is that I think we're going to have to walk away from, I hope that the outcome of this effort, y'all's time, our elected officials' time, that we walk away with 2 or 3 avenues of revenue, 2 or 3 streams of revenue. Because I don't think we can, I think we need to step off the $20 million, $30 million revenue stream and just chase that. And the transfer tax could theoretically do, you had some numbers, 20,
Yeah,
I
I
mean,
forgot what it
based on
was.
nickel per 100 or 25 cents per 100, it was
6
huge.
million or something dollars, I think the number
Okay.
was, but
So we may have to, so again, I kind of, my vision is that we walk out of this in the next weeks or months with a few avenues. I think the transfer fee is a 5-year plan. It's 5 years out. I'm just going to speculate. PR, just get to the legislature, it's 2 years out anyway, 2 to 5, zero revenue for some years. And the revenue, just sidebar, Williamson County's new building permit fees are still tied up in state court, right?
Yeah, we're still in lawsuit.
So y'all paying them, but they're not, after some date, they haven't received the
We're
funds.
writing that up, paid under protest on every check.
Are you talking about the educational, okay, not the
Yeah,
building permit.
excuse me, the
Okay.
special
I was talking about-
education component of that, right?
And that was on the books before the, before county.
Correct,
county-
correct,
Okay.
correct.
We're so limited with their revenue generating abilities. It's like the mineral severance tax, every ton of gravel goes out here and so forth. But so many things like that are at the max. And it has to go through the legislature to get them changed and everything, you know. So we're just so limited with things like that. One thing that maybe helps, I don't know how much, but the sales tax that's going to be generated from the internet. I don't know when that, I don't know when that windfall is going to start coming our way, but that's going to help some.
Well, Amazon's been collecting it from me, so I don't know where it's going, but
Here's an article that said Decatur has a wheel tax of $110. I don't know what ours
We're
is.
52-ish
Mm-hmm.
for a residential vehicle, and there's some kind of
I think it's all the same. I'm not
equal
sure.
50,
Yeah,
flat
I think so,
50.
yeah.
I know commercial, my dump trucks,
I don't
they
know,
were
it's got through paying them.
way more. They were
Seems like
in the
seems
in
like
the
my,
hundreds.
yeah, it seems like my
Low
truck's more than my motorcycle is, but I don't remember why that is, but I could be wrong.
So you can just go $20 on oil tax.
Tax paying $78.
That's what I think that's when I do my truck, it's that, but my motorcycle's like 50 or something like that.
All right, so I've just got to note this, the transfer fee is a topic to be advocated for and to be PR'd and to be advertised and then worked into the legislature. It's a topic. Agreed? The wheel tax is something that we have one avenue, there's 3 avenues to raise it, one of which the county commission could have 2 or 3 readings. There's some,
Yeah.
we could, if the commission approved a wheel tax and let's just, in an earmark, I wouldn't approve it unless it was earmarked. And an earmark, it could happen over the course of, that vote could occur more than once and then it would be enacted. So I think a wheel tax is on the table for this conversation.
It's the
Well, in
quickest
2000,
solution.
it passed 20-1 from the commission with 2 readings, and it didn't go to a referendum. But I took a meeting about, well, why didn't we go ahead and do it on a referendum? I said, well, it's time to bite the bullet, you know? So,
And that could potentially, $10 is $2.5 million.
yeah, something like that, yeah.
Then there's the property tax continues to be, you know, a penny here and there. A penny's, let's round it to $1 million. Is that safe enough?
960 something,
So a penny in tax, we did 12 pennies last year,
correct.
is $1 million to the general, in gross revenue.
What is y'all's need for next year? How much do you have in projects you need funding for?
Well, so I was, and then last is sales tax. Let's come, the sales tax is, there's actually a request going to the legislature to allocate how they do their percentages. And that had some energy, and then it didn't make the agenda, but it could be on the agenda for this legislative
For the
session.
high growth,
For that high, yeah, and when, so.
but
the,
that's and the opposition to that is, you're talking about 10 to 15 districts, and you're talking about 132 people in the
having to
legislature,
vote for it.
Yeah,
of which a large percentage are going to come from
the
rural
small,
areas.
yeah, it's a small county.
That will oppose it because it's going to take money out of their pocket.
Correct.
Then that's why it's
Yeah, that's why it failed to make
That's why-
last year's.
going to be difficult to do.
Agreed, as is potentially the transfer.
But
tax.
everything else is going to be
Yeah,
difficult to do.
yeah. So I just kind of, there's PR campaigns and legislative actions. There's that group, which is sales tax, disbursement, allocations, and a transfer fee. Then there's wheel tax, which we have a little more control to expedite. And then there's property tax, which we have control to expedite a choice, a tough choice every year. So those, and then the last one I'm going to bring up is Jim and I are going to meet with Rob Mitchell, tax assessor, this week to talk about a traffic assessment district, a concept of if a roadway in a certain scientific shape that is fed by certain arterial or local streets, could that project be funded by a theoretical revenue created by lots, future lots? And could it be bonded by us and paid back by home buyers or developers or sellers, however that?
So I think the way the assessment districts work is they establish an area. And now, I don't know whether that has to be on all new homes or all existing. That may be a question for you guys more than Rob even. And then basically bonds are floated and that home buyer pays off that as basically a lift on the property tax
Okay.
over 15, 30, whatever you
Okay.
float the bond.
Okay,
for.
okay.
That's my understanding of the special assessment. It's
Well,
very similar to what the city does with the sewers.
You're familiar with those, aren't you, Jason? Tim, have you seen sewer assessment districts? You have.
We'll pay by the acre when we close.
By the acre, by the unit.
We'll pay by the acre so much.
Yeah.
Okay.
City will send us what we owe.
Some of the difference is that is the way the city set up the assessment district, it's a one-time flat fee. I think what you're gonna talk to Rob about is it's a continual payment until the bond expires. And so it decreases, but it puts the burden on the people that are actually using the services, so it's growth paying for itself
Over time.
over time, which is.
That fee is always just figured into the lot cost anyway.
How would you look at the equity of new development and the new homes versus existing homes?
I think that's part of the hard part, in my opinion, because everybody wants to blame the new people. Well, almost everybody in the county is a new person. And so I think that's the hard part for you guys. It's easy for me to say, I think everybody ought to pay it. But for you guys, I think that's the hard part because they want to lay everything at the new people. Well, it gets pretty difficult because that pot's a lot smaller. And the people that are here are using the same infrastructure. And so I think it's equitable. And maybe there's some sort of, to me, the new people pay their bump whenever they buy their house because my clients go out there, they build turn lanes, they build signals, they widen the road, they put in new infrastructure, whatever those things are. Not that they get credit for it because everybody thinks they're big, bad people, but they do put those things in and that gets built into the price of the home or price of the lot. That's where they pay their bump and they add tax revenue. And so, and then on top of that, they're also going to pay this additional lift. And so I think that, to me, that's a very equitable way to do that.
That was my point. I agree with you that I think it should be carte blanche because the people who've been here 50 years, they're
Right.
using the same infrastructure.
And that's
Yes.
double taxation too.
What is?
What this concept's double taxation. Because Matt just said, the developer builder's got to go in, the county says, you got to put in cleaning boxes, you got to do these turn lanes, you got to do this, 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 and this, and that drives up the end user's cost. They pay more for the lot, they pay more for the house. Then on top of that, they're paying property taxes on a new house. Then they got to pay this extra impact on top of that. For how long? That's double taxation.
Yeah, and, well, I mean, some of that you could contribute to me, because this assessment district, one, you could do this same thing for the schools. I know that's not really where our concentration is. The schools is a little easier to assign that area to because, hey, if your kid
It's a
goes to
school
this
zone. Got
school,
it.
Yeah.
then that's where you're going. That's what you're gonna pay. A road, I mean, hell, I might live on the north side of town. I'm gonna drive on the south side of town at some point, but obviously I'm gonna drive there less, so maybe the benefit. I think what Rob's gonna tell you is you have to show a direct benefit to the user, the end user, as opposed to the,
What impact he's gonna have.
that's right. And so, and I don't know if that has to be driven by value of property. I don't know that. Rob might be able to tell you that. So to me, roads becomes very hard if you don't directly touch the road. But the traffic shed might be able to help with some of that. If the traffic shed is solid science on how it delineates that area, then maybe that's where you can utilize the traffic shed concept in a different manner than what Williamson County, it's much more effective.
Yeah.
That's what I've always thought, is you relate it back like that. You can do the same thing for fire halls, which I think is very simple to draw that area. I mean, they've all got service districts, right? You can do this, probably do the same thing for the sheriff's department somehow to pay, I don't know what you'd pay for because they just got one place, but
What about a toll road? I mean,
a toll road,
yeah.
I don't know. I mean, that probably, I know
And I've
TDOT
never
did some
understood
pilot
this traffic
programs.
shed. How is it equitable? How is it, I guess, maybe fair to make the developer slash builder, the pioneer that goes into that area?
Mm-hmm.
And how is that fair to make them pay for something that everybody else is going to get to use?
So, I mean, for turn lanes, it's very easy to say what's fair, but for what Williamson County is asking the developer to do, I don't think, and it doesn't work. I mean, you
They're
go over
moving
there,
away
there are
from-
no
yeah.
roads getting improved in
They're
rural
moving
parts.
away from the traffic shed in Williamson County.
And that's right. At least the way they use it. I'm saying take that, if that is good science, saying how many cars go to this particular road, if it's good science, I don't know that it is, you could use that to establish where your assessment districts are and who pays what.
I was an initial opponent of the traffic shed concept, but the more I got to learn about it and realize how it worked, I saw it as an excellent planning tool. And I think maybe this is the quandary that the county commission got into. Okay, after the planning tool, then what?
Right.
I mean, how do you assign some sort of value? And in the conversations with Williamson County that we had not long ago, they were moving away from that. They had adopted some years ago, but they were abandoning the use of that because it was very hard to determine. They've identified roads that are problems, Clovercroft Road and Arnold Road, some other major thoroughfares, but a lot of the people that were using that road were not residents of the county. They were coming in, they were maybe coming from Smyrna and going to
living in
Franklin or
Brentwood,
Brentwood
working
to
in
go to work.
Yeah.
Well, how do you assign, that they're using your capacity but not paying the fee?
Yeah,
There's
and
where
I
the
don't.
toll road comes in.
And I don't think that you can, and I mean, toll roads, I don't know. I mean, that's what TDOT's only allowed, I mean, they've set up 3 of those, and those had to get specially allowed by the legislature or something. I don't know. I know the assessment, we were looking to do a private assessment on a large project. And so we went and visited with Rob. That's whenever I figured out that the public could actually set up these public assessments for these various uses. You can do it for parks, you know, you can do it for a police precinct, any of those sorts of things. I just think the roads get
It does.
fuzzy, the lines
It does
get fuzzy.
But, I mean, going back to what you said, though, we know the particular school zones. We know how many portables for each school zone. I mean, is that,
But that's a moving target too.
Yeah.
Every time that you got to add a school, you know, the school, my wife is in the city school system. And, you know, wherever you build that school, development's going to go. So it's always going to be kind of dynamic, and you know, they've had to build, the city schools have built to the west out of, I mean, they're within, you know, spitting distance in some cases with Scales and Salem and Overall Creek and Cason Lane. I mean, right there, and chances are, with the way the growth continues to go that way, that's where the next school had to be. It's where, you know, the county's building out that way. So wherever you, that's going to always be in flux. And whenever you build another school, then you're going to find more people want to be closer to the school for what, especially has a good reputation. So anything you do.
It seems like though that they, you know that school zone's at capacity or over capacity, and somebody wants to develop in that area, there could be an equitable.
They're already over capacity.
Equitable.
I mean,
You know,
Overall
you-
Creek, for example.
That's, 75% of our budget goes to
You weren't
schools.
there then.
Yeah.
So Overall Creek, Salem just opened, and Salem and Overall Creek are the same size, and they'll be pushing capacity at Salem, next year, probably, or 2 years at the most.
Well,
And
somebody
they'll have to,
reshuffle.
reshuffle.
Well, somebody said in here, I think it was in here, it could have been in a different meeting, you don't build a school for it to be empty. I mean, you're.
No.
No.
I mean,
No.
So.
But
that's
you do
what-
build it.
Yeah, you should
You
plan.
do build it, maybe you build it for
Right.
1,200 capacity thinking you're
Right.
gonna have 800. Well, then
Right.
Blue Million Apartments built all the way around Overall Creek, for example, again, and it's exploded.
So,
It's continuing to explode.
but-
Talking about the school system and everything, you're talking about a sobering effect and a sobering thought. 75% of the budget goes to the school system. Okay, with the $644 million budget that we just approved in June. Of course, the school system's not a 365-day year, but you divide that by the 75% that they get. You divide that by 365 days a year.
Total $1 million.
You know how much that you know how much that equates to? Over $1 million a day to operate the school system.
Do you, so how much of their budget, let's just call it 400 for simple math, how much of that is toward capital improvements?
Well,
Do you know?
we just
Versus
got
operating.
a want list recently for 2021, $68 million.
But that's all capital, right?
Capital
Because
projects.
the majority of operating, if I'm not mistaken, the majority of operating is gonna come from Fed and state funds.
Our contribution to
school.
the schools is about 4,000 per student.
Well, I was just thinking, because the special assessment could replace, I don't think you can use it, I wouldn't recommend using debt for operating costs. I'm saying use the assessment for the capital improvement side. I don't know what those ratios are, so how much does that take off your,
Having to
Oh,
get
property
bonds
taxes.
and
That's right.
things, yeah.
I'm okay with the bonds, but how much does that take off the county's burden if you're able to utilize new homes paying for the capital improvement side, the buildings or whatever they're doing? You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Not in relation to roads, but
That's,
but
I mean, you could allocate a portion of it though for roads around there. around the
if you take the burden that you have for building schools, because we all agree, I think that's a much easier equation on who needs to pay for as far as what homeowner in that school district.
Okay.
You could take some of that money that you now allocate toward debt service or whatever else for the schools and move that over to the roads.
to this assessment district.
Yes.
And those numbers are available very precisely from
So what happens when
the capital.
redistrict?
I would say new people pay. And I would say that with GIS today, it is a very easy
Yeah.
thing to move around. So
That would rotate with the district, as it were, or the
So how,
zoning.
for example, say as a county builds Salem, that's new, new. So you're
Right.
saying the school board has the authority to determine who goes to Salem. And so those people in that area, with your scenario, would be an
pay.
assessment district
Yeah.
to pay for that school.
yeah, maybe it's an
So
extra.
the next time that they have to realign,
Somebody different. might
rezone, somebody else is gonna pay.
pay. Yep.
Theoretically, it'd probably be a little tighter circle too, but,
I don't,
So-
I'm sure, to me, that's just my philosophy. Users should pay. The more things we can turn into a user tax, the better off we are, rather than just going in this big pot of money, which is what property tax does, right? So that's just my philosophy. I'm not the decision maker.
I've got 6 revenue streams jotted down here. I'm not going to go through them again. You all mentioned them, including toll road. It's number 6.
That's ridiculous, but
It may be the one to kick out. We kick out the top and the bottom and flatten the curve. We make it
you know, you
6.
talk about user, and there you go.
Yes.
So, you gonna use that new road? Yeah,
And
you don't have to pay
there's
for it.
long and short. A long time to revenue. I said long term, but it's not. But a long time to get the revenue.
Well, that's-
and then they're short.
Right. Well, that's what, all these ideas we're kicking out, they're still going to have to go through, state legislature. I
Not
mean,
all of them. Wheel tax,
Oh, okay.
property tax,
Very,
and
very
assessment district. Maybe the assessment
Yeah.
district may. Who knows what? That's what Rob Mitchell may be able to educate us on some components that have been proven or precedent somewhere.
I mean, you could statistically look at the data and say every new home that comes into Rutherford County produces whatever, 1.8 kids. And that impacts the number in this school zone. I mean, could you not equate that to a requirement of how much is it going to cost to build a new school for these 1.8 kids times 500 lots in this new area?
I would think so.
What about those apartments?
It's same,
Same 1.8 kids or same easels or.
I mean, there's statistical data from, from the census or whatnot.
And there's GIS boundaries, and I just think there's ways to commandeer that into a.
If you start doing that math, so the city school just costs, I mean, depending on the number keeps getting higher every time I hear it quoted,
Our
but
high schools are 60 million.
But that was a bargain.
70 million, and our middle schools are a little bit less, elementary slightly less, so 35 to 70 million,
so
average
let's say
50 million.
that same kid is going to utilize all those. So should that same family, that same house, pay for all 3 schools? I mean,
Yes.
that's where okay, so a full school complex costs you, what, 150 million?
Yeah, that's a good conservative figure.
And so 150 million, and if you have, how many kids will that house total?
2,400 plus 2,000,
So
4,400.
4,400.
We're talking about high school and middle
All
school.
of it
All
counts.
together.
Elementary.
For the whole
I think it was
so
higher.
it's a three-way camp.
So that's
I did 12, 12, and 2.
And then how many kids are we saying are per house? 1.8, is that the
I
number county uses?
don't know.
Yeah,
I
I know.
just-
Probably so.
Let's say,
Just say 2 per unit, just to get around the
Okay.
number.
so that's
Something else.
17,000 per house, if I did my math right. I mean,
150 million divided
and,
by.
and so
100
then
kids.
you two can probably quit, you can too. So every, $1,000 kicks how many people out of the housing
I forget
market?
the number, but it's.
And so the problem with that is that you're operating on you're saying, well, all right, I'm gonna go pay for a school with cash. The assessment, it's a lift, but it spreads it out over time. It's not such a big hit to one person. Because otherwise, hey, that first person that buys the first house is gonna pay $17,000.
Which is
And
not,
then,
not
Right.
prudent, not prudent, not wise, not a good business
Take a lot of
decision.
people out of the market.
And that's paying for everything. That's the smallest portion paying for the biggest
that's right.
cost. And I do think in government we have the capacity to share for the common good, even those without the 1.8 kids. Their community may grow and thrive if they're helping educate
Right,
their future
yeah.
employees and business owners. So
Go ahead, I'm sorry.
we're back to multiple. If we look at one tax to resolve it all,
Oh, yeah.
That's
I'm
not
not saying
smart law, and then we
the
look
new
at-
development pay for
we
everything.
look at one cost, one project funded by one neighborhood or one TIF or whatever. I think we're back to there's 5 options, excuse me, and we may have to implement all 5. That's my.
One of the things I didn't hear you mention today is that's an inflation adjustment to the development tax.
That was where the ball was dropped.
Mike had presented some numbers, and I think over the course of, since it was implemented, it would have raised an additional 17 million. Again, it's drops, but enough drops and we got a gallon.
Yeah.
And that inflation adjustment on a per home basis was not very large. It seemed like it was $250 or $300 or something. It
But
wasn't-
even,
But it does
in addition to
allow
that, a
for
square
future
footage,
growth.
I mean, it wasn't, you
Well, that would have been an
didn't have
adequate
square footage and you didn't have
facilities
a, okay,
tax
right.
to do the square
Right.
footage thing, which to me is, you know, if you're 60 years old and you build a big house, why should you pay a bigger tax than a couple that's got 3 kids and living in a 1,500 square foot house, you know?
True.
Yeah, you're not putting any kids in the school, you've already paid your tax, so to me, the adequate facilities tax is not as fair as the development tax, but.
The sobering thing about school is the Rockwell School, 70 million, 2,000 core student. Divide that, brick and mortar alone, not counting the $4 to $6 million recurring costs, equipment, and staffing and so forth. The day that sucker opened, with 2,000 students walking in there, that's $35,000 per student, brick and mortar alone. So, you know, it's not going to go away. And it's not going to get any cheaper at all, building school. You know, so.
Then there's adequate facilities and development tax, a square foot tax. It's been deemed potentially illegal by the Private Act. That's number 8. Number 7 is adjust for inflation, the development tax. So there's 8 components here, including the toll road. That's not scrap. 8 components. Some are out there, some
Do
are
not label that.
That's 5 years out, and then there's the 6 months out. Will tax could be implemented in 6 months or less. And each of these could generate a couple of $1 million. What's 2 million times 7? 14.
We're taking
Thanks. 14 million.
Pretty, I mean,
All right,
it's a
so-
pretty decent stick.
So,
It's real money.
and that's probably just a number not even worth having out there, because whatever. So, you asked a question several minutes ago and I stopped you, and that is, was it target or what is our needs?
Yeah, so what's the target?
So we can scientifically work on that. Doug's doing a comprehensive traffic study, is that the
Well,
short
we're
term?
getting ready to start up the process of our comprehensive plan and a redo of our long-range transportation plan.
And we
An
put
update.
some funds in there for it?
Yes.
For this year?
Yes. And I mean, it's going to be probably a couple-year process, but yeah.
2 years to get the final data,
Right. And the final documents.
and then
everything.
some time to digest it. So it's
Right.
3 years out, we could have like,
But y'all do the projects you want to do now.
and I think we could probably put some professional, common sense numbers together with a group of guys, ladies and gentlemen like this. And that is, Greg Brooks is doing $3 million a year just to get the
Plainview.
Plainview,
Schools.
Sledge, and those roads. And he'll do that for the next, it needs to be, it's an $8 million project just to get those built up. He's using savings.
Ending fund balance money.
So I think we could, I think we could play with a couple of scenarios and kind of come up with gee, what is that yearly number in the conversation? We've got 15 more minutes. I don't know if that's where we go next, spend a little time on that,
Or
or
at least a short-term number for what you need now to do
Yeah.
immediate needs.
I think it's $5 million a year. I think we gotta have that number that can be implemented in something greater than maintenance, which is Greg's mission now, right away. Because we will spend it in the 1920. We're in the 1819 calendar. No, we're in the 1920 budget. We'll spend it. And Greg, we approved Greg pulling that money out of fund balance. For the 2021 year, we need it. And that's going to have to come from will tax or property tax.
You just need to have that number out there for when start pushing the will tax.
And so, and we, do y'all mind if we kind of play with that?
Oh.
So $5 million
You're
a
running
year?
this meeting.
Sir, well, 5 million, and then I want to go back to, did anybody have an agenda? Let's spend a few minutes on this. Then 5 million a year is a number I throw on the table. And we may only build a project every 2 years or 3 years. So could we get 10 or $15 million together? And then we start using traffic plan. Then we are implementing some greater revenue streams in 3 or 4 years out, potentially. And we may be doing 20 million every third year. I mean, I'm playing with too many scenarios. We need to generate a few million a year starting in the 2021 budget. I'm looking at you, Paul, just to go.
Thank you.
That's the next budget. We can't do anything before that budget, right?
Correct.
There's no.
No, it's a moot point. right now.
Spring of 20, we're hammering out these budgets, and I would like to present some
Alternatives to it.
some
Yeah.
some funding.
Yeah.
So we're about to walk into a can of worms because Greg Brooks doesn't have the capacity to take on projects.
Right.
He's got maintenance,
Yeah.
and he can do it. He can
Gradual.
with a skeletal crew add something on, but he would have to change his enterprise with people, personnel, equipment, with personnel, equipment, and funding if he were going to do.
So if you get your $20, if you added $20 to wheel tax, start,
That's $5 million.
so that would get you where you need to be for now, correct?
That's a,
In the short term?
that's a real quick,
In the short term?
pretty darn.
It would stand a better chance in the commission over a referendum.
But that's really a net $11 increase if you take away the $9 you've been paying for emissions testing.
And that
we
rolls
paid-
off.
I thought we paid
Say
even
that
10.
rolls off.
It has been 10 paid.
No, they
was nine.
scaled it back to
Keep 9,
9.
we get it done.
Scaled it back to 9.
So I mean,
I remember
$10.
paying $9. I thought I've been paying $9.
Let me charge you
I only,
15.
hey, I don't have to pay y'all that.
But 9 or 10, so it could be a
Yeah.
net 10.
Yeah.
When does that roll off? I don't remember.
It's like a couple
Probably
years.
another year and a half.
Okay.
So it's not it's a burden initially.
Yeah.
It's all a burden, don't get me wrong.
Right.
All of us.
But we all benefit from the roads and be able to get around, so.
Oh, yeah.
That's in my mind, the wheel tax is the perfect user fee. I mean, you got 5 cars, you got 4 kids, 3 kids in the household, you're burning the roads up, you should pay an additional tax.
Do you
And no
remember
kids.
what you paid for commercial vehicles? I'm trying to think what I paid. We had 72,000 pound tags, and it was, I think they were up in the less than 200, we're up at 150 or so per vehicle. Nobody remember that? I don't know if
I've never owned a dump truck.
if that's the same, if it's $10, is that just a dual axle or single, a sedan versus?
Well, now, the $20 that was passed in 2000 was carte blanche for everything, motorcycles, everything. It was just
Okay.
over the
So
board.
every,
across the
okay,
board.
would just be part of the commercial
Correct. It's over the
column.
board.
But and one thing, we've been talking a lot about roads, but I think we wanted to address storm drainage too. And I was thinking I'd heard Mike say early on, we'd like to try to do a user or storm user fee like the city. So that's one thing we hadn't talked
Put it on the
about.
water bill.
As a, sir?
Put it, oh, I don't have a water bill. Would you put it?
We probably,
CUD, we're using CUD for, well, we're not.
well, we could put on property tax. I mean,
There
just,
was some talk about that.
How do people that have a well pay that
Just-
stormwater fee?
it'd be a property tax.
Okay, yeah, but I was thinking about the CUD thing, if CUD was collecting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's
That's why I think it had.
Is that number
I think
9?
he's right, probably have to go on the property tax. It has
Is
to be
that,
once a year.
Stormwater fee.
The city really didn't have that problem, I don't think. 'Cause, I mean, you might be missing one or
Which
two
would be
people out there.
the tax
But I'll
increase.
get, you know, I'm on CUD, that's where my garbage fees paid to.
I'm
Which-
not on
which-
CUD.
which
I'm
could-
not gonna pay.
In the city.
We've got the stormwater fee that's kind of hit the agenda, and so that's mandated to Mike's department to spare the details. So, we're talking roads, which has storm drainage systems as a component. Could any of those, is that part of our bucket of money, or does your fees are going to go
Well,
straight to
we
your
would have to,
inspection staffs?
probably inspection, I mean, across the board though, but we would have to look at, because Greg has some of his, money goes to his projects, his stormwater projects. He maintains the existing roads. We oversee the construction of new roads. So we would have to coordinate that with Greg, and look at potential
Okay, so some of those things
revenues
trickle into
to his,
building,
right.
So this isn't your creek assessments and your
No.
watershed assessments.
Right.
This is a different.
Well, I mean, we're mandated by the federal and state government to have a stormwater program, and we have to fund that through the county general fund. So, and we do collect some, land disturbance fees, but, not enough to cover the cost of our stormwater program, because we've got inspectors, we've got, staff engineers, we've got
Yeah, vehicles.
vehicles to take care of. So,
So that's just another. What do we know about any fee per lot? Is that all fall under the adequate facilities that's part of this private act? Can you do can you to pull a permit or to record a plat, can you just simply say it's $100 a lot to?
yeah, but they would lock them up if they
That's a
did.
development tax.
That's all those
That's all-
deemed. Okay,
That's all
okay.
part of it, yeah.
There's not a lot fee that could be, that's low-hanging fruit.
I would say the lot fee is $750, development tax, and the house fee is
750.
Yeah,
Yeah.
1,500 total.
One thing
and
we
that's-
used to
that's
do
it.
back in the day was we used to bill for our inspectors' time. I mean, we basically paid their
We do
salary.
building inspectors, there's a permit fee for that.
And what about
They,
your utility guys that check water, sewer? We would, if
We don't
they
have-
were on
we
don't
site, we
have
would have
that.
to.
I mean, that goes to our land disturbance
Yeah.
part of the fee,
Now, we could
We used to charge a
probably,
land disturbance permit and
I mean,
bill for the time.
yeah, building
Testing.
permit fees were increased pretty substantially 4 or 5 years ago now, I guess.
For her office. or
Right,
on
now,
office.
when it comes to looking at plat review fees and site plan fees, we really haven't changed that since 2007. But, I mean, you're not gonna get that kind of revenue
Yes.
from, the big money we're talking about. I mean, like you said, it's drops, but we're talking like, for that's probably half drops.
Right.
It's something, but it's not.
Tenth
I
drop.
doubt Matt wants to pay $17,000 a lot.
All right.
Yeah. Well, I remember when I first started working for the county, the planning director at that time had actually done put some numbers out there if you were to completely self-fund the planning and engineering office. Now, the issue that he was running into was he was basing that off of the numbers at the time. Said, okay, based on the numbers that we're seeing, if you did this is how much it would, I forget, it was pretty good amount of money. But that's assuming that level of construction and plat review stayed the same. Obviously, if you start getting more, you're making more money, but if you're getting less stuff in,
Yeah.
I mean, that falls apart pretty quick.
Cost goes.
So, yeah, there's no way to sustain that. We'd have to be reevaluating almost, monthly, yearly, so. But we have not, the fees that we're under now are pretty much the same as what we had in 2007 when we changed them.
Okay. 9 items. We've got, we talked about some needs, and then we're going to have to develop the target.
Short term.
But just the target, I think it's reasonable to think that it needs to probably get up 5 or 10, 15 million a year and build a project every other or third year.
For a road project, I mean.
Yes, I'm just thinking about building,
Strictly for road.
if we're doing little 5 miles is a lot, little 3-mile jobs at $2 million a mile. Is that
As long as you don't have any bridges.
too outrageous? Is that, yeah. So that's $6 million, and every,
The city just, I say just, in the last few months, well, maybe Northfield Extension where Vanderbilt's going, I think they bid, and I think that was about $1 million or a mile-long road, and I think it was around the $4 million a mile. I've texted somebody to see if I could get a confirmation on what that is. Obviously, that's curb and gutter.
That'd be,
That's got to cross the
So,
river
have
too,
any
right?
right?
I mean, that's got to cross the river too, right?
No,
No,
this is just a,
it does
part
eventually, but not in this number. That's curb and gutter, which can drive your number.
And it'll be probably 5 lanes with a stoplight.
It was 3.
3
Yeah,
lanes.
it did have a signal, and that's probably 200, 300,000. But it's,
I think
that's still, I mean, the thing about it, in my opinion, the county's road projects are probably gonna be much longer than the cities because just the nature of your roads versus the
like
cities.
5-mile segments. Just again, I know this is theoretical.
I don't know, I just,
It just, it just depends on, even along a certain stretch of road, there could be some areas along that road that need it more than others, when you
Sure.
start getting
What
short.
road is your number one road you need to fix right now?
Plainview, Sledge, Plainview, I think it's 7 miles.
And does any of that require additional right-of-way acquisition?
Yep.
Oh, yeah.
Every bit of
And
it.
some of it, they own to the center of the road,
Yeah,
old school.
yeah.
See, this is just improving that.
Yeah,
That's not
right.
building it.
Just slapping some
It's
shoulders.
just widening the road
But the
and
right-
fixing the
You had to
intersections.
compensate them.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
They have to be purchased, for sure.
Oh, yeah.
But our, but Matt, we can do shoulders and piecemeal, or we can do curb gutter sections. So it could go from,
yeah, I mean, I would think most of your stuff is going to be in shoulder section, I would think.
depends, yeah. Because the ADA may require we do sidewalks. I don't,
Well, they don't require, no, they won't require the sidewalks, but if you build them, they'll have to be
Right,
compliant
yeah.
and the ramps at the intersections and
Okay,
things.
okay.
But there's nothing that says that you have to put in sidewalks.
And so, I mean, some of your priorities may be a city-county joint project because Halls Hill, like Halls Hill
and frankly, there's
and
a,
Rucker Lane. I mean, I think that one's been sitting out there for a while, and I don't know what that participation number looks like, but obviously that will all become city at some point, so I would think. Maybe not with the annexation lines,
so,
but that's one way you can stretch dollars, I would say.
and the city, there's probably some redundancy here, because I think the city's has the capacity to be a little more sophisticated in their pursuit of dollars
No,
and
they can.
projects,
Yeah.
and they're probably going through some efforts that we could piggyback or joint venture, and
Yeah.
so that's a whole nother thing.
Yeah.
5 miles at 2.5 million, 12.5 million a year is probably.
Do y'all get money from MPO? Or is that?
Well, we actually are getting ready to, the next long-range transportation plan is starting. So we'll be identifying projects here in the next couple of months. Now, we already have some on the books, but they're very long-term. And,
It's always down the road.
right, and of course, there's a certain amount, they evaluate all those as far as the more need, the more pressing ones and things. And then there's always the fact that, what kind of local match you can be able to put in there, which, a lot of the funding that they have is, it's like 80/20, something like that. And, when you don't have the 20% to put down,
Yeah.
they're not gonna look very favorably at the project.
Right.
So, Phil, of the items that you have on your list there, almost all, with the exception of maybe 2 of them, require legislative changes.
I
Now,
think so.
the mayor of Smyrna, Mary Esther, and Brian were here, and one of their big promotions, or one of their, they saw as their huge benefits or avenues of getting funding or getting legislation passed is through the use of a lobbyist. You county commissioners, if we were taking the temperature of the county commission on funding a lobbyist, is there any hope of that? I mean, I could see that it's something that would pay for, more than pay for itself.
My humble opinion, though,
It would not be well received.
no,
Excuse me.
no.
They're not gonna want to spend
I
money.
mean, Smyrna's certainly no fools, and
Yeah.
they know it's costing them money. so they-
Murfreesboro and the Board of Realtors have the state, Board of Realtors have the same lobbies. Russ Fair.
I think that would be
He's
worth,
been lobbying.
As
for
long as the
Tuesday
person
Realtors
brings
for
in
years
more
and-
money than
and
he
City
costs.
For the last
yeah, like a grant writer.
And
Give them in, they could pay for themselves.
I'm sure they're not just throwing money away and not with no benefit. Eagleville seems to do pretty well on getting grants too. I don't know how they're doing it,
Yeah.
certainly,
Well, so that brings us to action. Like what action steps can we take away? So let me postpone that just a sec. Did you have any agenda items or any points of Anybody have a point that they intended to make that haven't made yet before we pursue? Tim?
No, I voiced the Association of Realtors position, so
Okay.
I've done that, and the home builders,
So action is get a lobbyist topic in front of the commission.
My suggestion would be, the recommendations that you have there is informally talk to Mike and prioritize these, and at our next meeting,
Public Works.
Public Works,
Okay.
kind of discuss that.
Okay. The lobbyist as well.
Will be violating any sunshine law or anything like that.
What's Mayor
Because-
Ketron's view on all this stuff? I mean, has anybody talked to him about it?
No, part of our mission is to inform the mayor and the commission of,
So
Bring a plan of action.
He could be your best lobbyist. I mean, he was up there for.
Yeah, that's the reason I was talking about,
correct, and
But does he have time to,
that was
You make time
my,
for dollars.
that was my instinct when he ran. Is he a good asset? Is he a resource for the Rutherford County?
This is a good test.
I don't know if he's got the capacity, and
I think, to this menu of things that you brought up, I would think it would be a good use for the county attorney to be, to research these items, to find out what is constitutional, what's not, what does require legislative action, what doesn't.
agreed.
yeah.
That was my number one
Why they
note.
declared some of them
Through him and CTAS. So that was
Yeah.
my number one action was,
Yeah.
Nick, your first question, I guess your first question was something to that effect.
Oh, what made the transfer fee unconstitutional?
Which are more feasible.
Because it could be
than
just
we
a
get to
tweak
address.
of wording that makes it okay.
Yeah. And, all right, that's 2 action steps. Lobbyist is 1. Lobbyist is just more darn facts from professionals, and that's CTAS and the attorney. We're meeting Rob Mitchell in his capacity as being self-taught into what can be done. So he's not necessarily, doesn't have a credential to do this, but he's educated himself, right? That's my impression.
understanding.
So Rob Mitchell is about assessment districts.
It may take a lot of educating the commission on that one.
Yeah. We've already got some trajectory there with the traffic shed awareness. The planning commission's aware, Doug and Mike are aware. The commissioners on the planning commission are agitated enough or concerned enough that they're, so, good point, but I think that there's some groundwork already there, I think.
At some point, you're gonna have to communicate with the public
Yeah.
to present.
Oh, for sure.
You know, you've got to lay out the cause, the whys, you know. That, I think we often fall short, you know, in a lot of ways of communicating the need. And, you know, because we all have a tendency, we don't want our taxes going up, we don't want anything to change, but yet we want
Change.
you, we want you to do more than what you're doing, but.
And most important, what if we don't?
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
Critical
And
in my mind.
If
I'm
we
trying to
don't
think,
what?
If we don't do something.
Oh, yeah.
If we maintain.
No action is a choice, but boy, it's
Yeah,
a bad outcome.
Yeah. You know, we're trying to look 20 years down the road, and I can't imagine the mess we'll have
Yeah.
10 years or 20 years down the road if we don't do anything.
So I wrote PR as number 4, and that, what's the new staff person, political
Ashley
operator?
McDonald.
Oh, actually,
What's the acronym?
PIO,
PIO.
Public
Information Officer.
We have a public information officer now that has been hired for a couple of months, 3 months.
Yeah, she's been out
About
about
that,
a couple of months.
That could be how to get that. So that's 4 actions. 9 loose topics, some of which have some substance, and so anything else to the avenues of revenue, and then some actions to take. I would like to continue meeting. If it dies without, if it's productive.
I just think if you can have a short-term plan to show everybody your needs, short-term of what you need immediately, I think in order to get the
Prioritize,
wheel tax, and they're gonna have to see what you're gonna use.
prioritize your actions versus your needs.
Y'all willing to meet again?
2 weeks is Thanksgiving week. I'm definitely out for that day. Not that y'all need me here, but
Tuesday, the 26th. Is Tuesday? Today's
Tuesday the 26th is, yeah.
That'd be the Tuesday
Tuesday
before
before
Thanksgiving.
I'm available. We won't, we generally take the Thursday, Friday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday off, but
Yeah, my schedule is very flexible.
Me too.
I'm good.
Yeah.
Rachel, what's your schedule
I'm
like?
fine.
You-
Either way,
You're
whatever.
working?
Yeah. I'm here.
Maybe Kush can, let's go ahead and put it on the agenda, and
Yeah, 22nd?
we will have,
26th, Tuesday the 20th.
we can meet our advertising requirements?
If I can get it out today by 2, it should be in the paper by, I think it would go out either on Friday or Monday, so it really needs to be in there 3 days prior, like a public notice.
That'd be 11:30 meeting again.
Publish that, please.
Okay.
The agenda is going to be try to follow up on these action steps, some of which can be followed up on. We'll have a report from Rob that we can spend a few minutes summarizing it. I can put it in front of the folks. We'll have Kush back, and maybe Melissa from CTAS will have some input.
Thank y'all for your
Sounds
time.
good. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks.